Yes.
Okay, so we had significant bombing today. So the majority of people decided to join online.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good. So how do you do?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah. You are flying near Mars? Okay.
Yes, what I'm doing. Just changing my my layout and background effects. It just depends on one sec. Here we go. That's my typical background.
Okay, you came back. Cool, man. That's what people with a 3 million ARR do. They just jump from background to background. Yeah, they have a lot of them.
From spaceship to backgrounds to yes, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start. First of all, we are grateful to have you here online. Yeah, and thank you. And this round of applause is for you. Yeah, so quick context. We are a startup hub in Kyiv called LIFT99 hub. And basically, we are startuppers with our own companies building products together, like space, startup space. Yes, and basically this event, how it's done, is our chance to speak, to make friends with founders from great founders all over the world, like you. Yeah. And today we will be asking you in a raw format about sales.
Yeah. Sure.
But as an icebreaker, I have some insider knowledge from my friends. With whom you drank beer last week. So my insider knowledge is that you have a grandmother which is Ukrainian.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. Okay, so
from a small village. I don't even know what the name of the village is, to be honest.
Oh no. My next question was where did she where did she live? Okay. Lives. And she's currently in Ukraine or
No, unfortunately she died. She moved to so I was born and raised in Latvia, so unfortunately she died a while back. So
sorry.
So that's all right. I mean, it happened a long time ago, but yeah, she moved over from Ukraine to Latvia a long time ago. So yeah.
Cool. Good. So who will be the first to ask a sales question? Who has the most sales-oriented problems? Daria. And we have one more tradition. Before the person will ask you a question, they will introduce themselves.
Okay, sure. I'm really happy to see you here. And I'm Daria, co-founder and CTO at the Code in the Box. We are helping businesses in US winning more government contracts and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And my first question is based on the highlight of this meeting. Basically, I want to know what is your secret. Basically, I never heard anyone who would be able to reach such a high ARR in such a short time period, like even Lemlist and so on. So what's your secret?
Secret, I mean, there's probably there's no secret. There's like 100 different items that you can just sort of mention. I mean, I can kind of go kind of randomly across different aspects, but from on one hand, there is what I would call deep domain expertise in the field. So, my background is in sales, so I've been in sales for well over a decade. So you just use all the knowledge that you acquired in sales and you put that into a product. So on one hand, domain expertise is very valuable. So you kind of mentioned Lemlist. Guess what? Lemlist doesn't have domain expertise as much as what we do in our company. And as a result, if you understand the topic in a lot more depth than somebody else, you are able to scale significantly better. Then on the other hand, I mean, typically for a start of the scale, I always say you need at least 2 10x people. On one hand, so startups is very simple. On one hand, you need to build cool stuff, and on the other hand, you have to sell that cool stuff. And when you have two 10x people, so one person builds the product really well, and the other the other person sells the product exceptionally well, then you have a, what's called an outlier outcome from that, or you can have an outlier outcome. You're a lot more probable. So the combination of what's called, the founder market fit, it definitely plays a huge, huge difference, in terms of how successful you become. And in my case, I found my two co-founders through YC matchmaking platform. So, and I was speaking to like 40 CTOs and trying to predict what's the best founder market fit. And the two guys that I found in business right now were the best match because we're building multiple products. Other things to mention is, so for somebody maybe that's something new, potentially is, and slightly more advanced stuff, is you have to figure out how to scale what makes you scale faster. So in our case, what we've done is we implement a concept that's called the software compound model. Software compound model means you build multiple pieces of software that you sell to the same user and to the same customer. So as a result, you're able to charge multiple subscriptions to the same customer, and that's one of the reasons why we're able to hyperscale. So you can call this the world of the product realm, but ultimately, if you go to Google right now, software compound model, you will see an article by Rippling, typically in the US, that talks about why building multiple products is so powerful. And we do that from day zero. So we do what we call parallel building. We build products in parallel with multiple teams. And this is also one of the reasons why we scale. But essentially, I can mention you other reasons, but there's, I could literally talk for 1 hour about, scaling. I have a deck if you want to see, but I'll rather answer questions that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. One more question is, what is your difference with Lemlist? They're doing almost like, basically different products and so on, like Warmly and so on. I see that the main thing is agents, maybe something else?
Good question. So fun fact, Lemlist is a customer of ours. We power Lemlist. So that's another thing. So yeah, we power currently over 20 competitors. So again, one of the ways how you can scale, you can figure out ways how you distribute your product. One is you can sell direct, like Lemlist does that. Two is you can power your direct competitors or other players in the market. And three is you can figure out what's called the reseller motion. How do you resell that product to a white label capability? These are three very powerful ways to go to market. And actually the tech partners like Lemlist Sondors, they can pay you a ton more money versus a typical customer because there's a lot of consumption. So yeah, Lemlist is a customer, but yeah, so we have 7 products. Lemlist has about 3 or 4 products, I believe. So we have more products, and we are truly what we call an ecosystem for outbound. So we do a lot more things than Lemlist. And we build it differently. So the positioning is a bit different. We call ourselves what we call the Apple ecosystem for outbound, because our goal is really to become the number one outbound, the number one pipeline building software stack, not just for outbound. Later, we're going to do inbound as well. We just approach differently. Yes, we also approach it what we call with agentic first approach and human second. So Lemlist is only for humans, and we don't believe fully in humans. We believe in what we call the blend. We believe that most parts of the organization in the world, you're going to be blending humans with agentic systems in one software environment, and you will be seeing significantly higher output levels at a significantly lower cost. So that means Lemlist cannot compete on the cost front. How expensive is it? How expensive it is for you to acquire net new dollars? We would outcompete Lemlist.
Makes total sense. Thank you so much. And the last question for now is back to earlier days of Salesforce, basically like MVP, your first sale and so on. So how did it go for you?
Good question. So back in the very first day, so I had the idea. The idea is to help companies build more pipeline through a modular approach, which means multiple softwares, and to do that in what we call the data-driven fashion. Data-driven fashion means right now what we're doing, we're building which is our first mode is what we call the software compound mode. Our second mode is the data layer that we're building underneath. That is our real mode. The mode is a data mode. We're building the world's largest sales activity data lake behind the scenes to remove decisions that are done by humans in the world of sales and pass more of the decision-making over to big data. It's a similar concept to Google and Facebook. Essentially, Facebook, Google uses big data to do decisioning on ad bidding. So what should be the bids that should be set to help customers achieve a particular CPA in Google Ads? We're going to do exactly that where the humans will not decide when the emails will go out. They will not decide what sort of email should be sent. The big data will decide on how the execution should look like, and that's ultimately what we're building as our core mode. But in the very first days, with our co-founders, before even shipping a single line of code, what we decided to do is fully validate what we were up to. So we've done 40 interviews, but apart from the 40 interviews, we actually managed to pull up and actually sign 4 paying customers before shipping a single line of code. And that's a true form of validation for what it is that you're building. If you have people and multiple companies paying for something that does not exist, it only exists in your head, and you have maybe a landing page, that you're onto something. And that's a true form of validation. It gives you conviction that if somebody's willing to pay out, pull out their credit card and actually pay for this, then you'll find thousands of other B2B customers that will be paying for this thing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
And what was the average check for this first sale when the product didn't exist yet?
Good question. So it was about $200. But the exercise was can you make multiple companies pull out their credit card and pay for something that doesn't exist?
No, this is a great check without a product, like I don't know, not like $99. Yeah. So who's next? Okay.
Hello, my name is Vadim. I am co-founder of startup Thumbnailed It. We increase click-through rate on YouTube. So my question is about your multi-software rule. I can be wrong about naming. I heard about it before, and I was curious that something similar was implemented in Hotspot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in my point of view, it's like one subscription with different modules, and you can select what you will use, and depend on that user have some subscription amount, subscription charge, sorry. So am I understanding it right? And how you implement it, having a little like modules from the start, how you started it?
So HubSpot and most of the other companies, they have one invoice, one brand, with many add-ons essentially under the top level subscription. We have multiple brands, multiple websites, multiple apps, and hence for every product and every brand, we have a separate subscription. Under that subscription, we have add-ons. So there are multiple subscriptions that customers pay, and they also get multiple invoices from one company, us, on what is it that they're subscribing to. Because each of those products can be used, not just in our ecosystem, but it could be used anywhere. We have API. They can take one of our products and can connect to HubSpot or whatever. We have customers, one of our largest customers uses our email infrastructure products and connects it to Lemmas, for example. So it's things like that. So this is one of the advantages of having a decoupled product offering, because they can take that product and they can go and use that product in something else in the ecosystem.
So multiple brands, it's still the case, or you have merged them into one Salesforce?
No, we have not merged them. We're gonna do bundling in the future, but we're not doing bundling right now. So bundling meaning if you buy, 2, 3, for every additional brand or product that you buy, you will get either this. So we don't do that yet. That's part of the next evolution of the ecosystem. We will discount, or we will increase value that you get for every dollar with us. It's one or the other. Typically, you don't want to discount. You want to just increase what's called the bang for your buck, how much value you get for every single dollar that you invest in the Forge ecosystem. Ultimately, we want to move, it's a crazy idea, we want to have our own Forge coins. So you buy Forge coins and then use them anywhere else, everywhere where you want to use them in the ecosystem. So.
That's cool, thank you.
Anybody? Yeah. Who's next? Sergey from SelfMe. I know you have a couple of those questions, of those simple and not so simple ones.
Okay, thanks. Hi, Frank. Nice to meet you. So, first of all, I feel a little pain because about paying for different products because I using instantly AI, and today I should buy additional ability to answer emails in inbox from different boxes. But it really works because if you need to answer your leads, you will pay, definitely. And honestly, I'm looking Salesforce, and I'm curious, is some discounts for the startups, maybe?
Yes, actually, if you're an Instantly customer, only an Instantly customer, you get 30% off with Salesforce.
Cool.
We are Instantly's #1 competitor right now. So, and as part of our strategy to reduce their market share, we aggressively will undercut them. Well, aggressive means we give 30% discount on Salesforce. So yeah, if you're up for it, just ping me on LinkedIn. Happy to send you the link and also explain you why we're different to Instantly, why we have a better offering than Instantly. But yeah, so like somebody mentioned, there's gazillions of softwares out there in the market, and to compete against Instantly or Limits, whatever, we just build what we call it. We don't build Android, we build the Apple. So, and there will be a lot of different benefits that you'll see from that, and that's something we're realizing. But particularly against Instantly, is we do also discounts. So the reason why I'm also mentioning why particularly Instantly, so what I would highly recommend to anybody to do is in the market when you have many competitors, you should pick one competitor in the market and you go aggressively against that one competitor. They should be significantly bigger than you, significantly bigger. So let's say Instantly, I think is believe it about 40 million in ARR right now. So significantly bigger than us, which is fine. And you want to do what's called anchoring. You always go up against the big guys, right? And you're pulling yourself up to the top. So how can you eat them up essentially, those big guys? Is you can do a lot of PR. So we will be doing aggressive PR on LinkedIn and everywhere. But you can also do discounting. Just against this particular party, you do a 30% discount. So you aggressively go at them and you're trying to create a lot of buzz. So yeah.
Yeah, cool, thanks. And also I want to ask you, maybe you could give advice to how to find the context for cold outreach, because I also use Clay. Maybe you could recommend something more.
Yeah, fun fact, we're investors in Clay. But when it comes to data, we have our data product. We build the world's largest search engine for leads. Think of it like Google Search or ChatGPT, which connects to multiple databases. And that's something that we are launching, full public launch, and I think in a day or two, but it's called LeadsForge.ai. LeadsForge.ai is the #1 search engine for leads that we built. And it's a very different, it's like Clay, but it's designed for the unsavvy users and significantly more cost effective. So Clay is like for what we call automation geeks. You can do a lot of crazy stuff and a lot of features, but you can build the same, let's call it backend, or the same experience or a backend standpoint, but with a very different front end. And the front end is a search-like more approach. You're searching, you're asking the engine, and then the engine connects to all the APIs and then serves those leads for you. And that's what LeadsForge does. So yeah. And then you can use those leads whatever in Salesforce, which is the easiest way to push, but you can use it anywhere else, again, in the ecosystem.
Cool, thanks.
I think we had a question from online audience.
Sure. I think Dima wants to ask.
Yeah, Frank, thank you so much for your answers. I spot one thing. You said that you're running right now several products in parallel, and usually it's startups are advised to go and focus very niche and not to disperse their attention on diversifying the products. So how do you manage them this and still succeed? Thanks.
Yeah, so that's a typical startup advice, focus on one thing. I mean, we did focus back in the days on one thing, and then initially we started to ramping more products and assigning more back-end engineers to different products, and the front-end engineer works across multiple products, so they recycle UI components across other products, if they can, not always. Typically, probably the best way to look at it, if you're looking really to make it and become a big company, typically you will go against the mainstream advice. That's probably the best way to explain it. So why would you go against the mainstream advice? So one thing I mentioned in the early call, I'm a domain expert in the field. That there's not that many domain experts in this field. And what that means is if you have a clear vision of where the industry is headed and how your space will look, particularly, let's say in 5 years, then you want to accelerate that vision as fast as you can to get there. So if you're a big believer that in this category, so in our category, we don't see what we call a behemoth company, a company that's $1 billion worth company that has multiple products and it's like a HubSpot or whatever, you know. So for the SMB, mid-market, enterprise segment, a company does a really good job, has a different products offering, and really dominates the market. I don't see that, you know, offering in our market. So to create that, you know, our thought process was let's create the ecosystem where you can buy on a consumption basis multiple products and like a Lego stitch together. You will have that Apple-like experience. So I'll give you an example. Apple has Apple ID. We have Forge ID. You can log in seamlessly into all those softwares, now transition to the different software, etc. So there's all those benefits that we're replicating from Apple, including the UX and whatever. Yeah, we are going against the advice of typical VCs or the typical market because you have that strong conviction from your domain expertise that by building these multiple products, I mean, A, they all make revenue. B, we grow very fast. C, we are profitable since day zero. So that means whatever it is that, you know, Frank and the team is doing, it must be working. Yes, and at the same time, you can say we have a very high, what we call friction, it's called levels or overcapacity levels in product engineering, where we're always pushing it. Like there's no month that we're stopping. We're always not shipping, let's call it fast enough is the status. So we're always looking for more engineers on the back end. So we're looking, and I think that the dilemma in our case, no, well, it's not a dilemma, it's just what we decided to do. We decided to have Go in the back ends, and Go engineers are a lot more rare than, let's say, Laravel or whatever, other type of engineers. But that's because we send millions and millions of emails on a daily basis, and it has to handle load. But at the same time, finding the really good engineers in Go is also a bit of a struggle because we only typically hire senior engineers. So yeah, from one hand, people say it's not a great idea, but then think of it this way as well. So let's say in our market, we have 100+ competitors. So you go into this market and you have to make it, right? So you go and pitch to your customer right now, hey, this is Frank with Salesforce. And then somebody will say, how are you different to whatever instantly limits, etc. And you have to have not one reason, but many reasons to explain to the user why they should pick you over any other solution. And because there's also switchover costs, people are like, there's not enough reasons. There's not enough delta between what Frank is building on this. So I'm trying to create so many reasons for you to switch over. This is a no-brainer. You have to get into mindset of this is no-brainer. So how do you get into this no-brainer mindset? So the market right now has a lot of what's called point solutions. So there's this solution, then there's that solution. Essentially what's happening, you have to buy multiple point solutions from different companies with different support teams, etc. But there is no company that has aggregating all these capabilities under one roof. And that's a different way of solving the pipeline problem that companies need to solve. But to accelerate this vision of ecosystem, you need to ship in parallel because otherwise the users will not see the ecosystem play. And that means just more investment on the engineering front, but at the same time, every product that we have generates revenue. And yes, one product generates very tiny revenue, and then the other one generates a ton of revenue. So yes, they're not all equal in terms of, but they all have a key role to play. Essentially, every software that we build is what we call a must-have software. If this software did not exist, this company would not become $1 billion company. That's how we think about it. So even if it generates like tiny revenue, we have some softwares that power other ecosystems, essentially, that power the rest of the ecosystem, so they play a role to help other forges to make money. And naturally, every forge has its own go-to-market motion. So how do we market this product? So for this product, we're happy to spend money in paid media. In this product, we don't do paid media, but we do influencer marketing, right? So there's also interesting things that you could do with that and to maximize, again, the monetization of these products because the entry points to the ecosystem could be different, just like in the case of Apple. Somebody starts with a MacBook and then will buy an iPhone, and so on and so forth. That's what we're trying to figure out in our head. How do we land and expand, but also cross-sell very fast? But yeah, we do a lot of kind of interesting stuff. For for example, we are very aggressive. I'm not sure whether you guys use, but we use heavily, apart from our own AI agents and scaling our own company, we use also NA10 very, very aggressively. We're trying to essentially kill anything that's repetitive in the business. We are launching even simple things like, messaging every person on WhatsApp when they sign up on the software. If the user did not buy in 7 days, our voice AI agent inbound are called every lead, and it will say something like, hey, this is Agent Frank. I saw that you signed up 7 days ago, but you didn't end up buying. What happened, etc. So that's an example where you don't apply humans, where you apply agentic capabilities to maximize essentially the probability of converting them as much as you can. So naturally, the humans is not the answer. The answer is where you blend autonomous capabilities with humans to achieve these super outcomes.
Good, super good.
Thank you so
Dima,
much.
do you have second questions from your first one, or no, like clarifications?
Well, probably I would ask if the marketing for all those processes are different. Whether you have standalone marketing for one product, for another one, and no other one, or you have one marketing for all these products that you ship.
So it's both. Like, think of it this way: it's just like Apple will promote Apple, it will promote itself as a the top level company, and then iPhone will promote iPhone. So it's both actually. So we promote the 4G ecosystem, and we're gonna do that aggressively more later this year. So we're gonna be promoting more the ecosystem rather than a particular product, and the benefit of transitioning away from point solutions over to the ecosystem. So that's what we're gonna be doubling down. And the reason why, now rather than later is because we were missing this final product, which is something we're launching in 2 days, which is LeadsForge. So LeadsForge is the data part of the business. So without leads, you cannot, do execution at scale. And again, so every product is built, is built in a way to compete in its own segment. So let's say the data segment, but it is able to. It essentially, like, think of it this way. So when we build also these products, we're essentially making revenue bets. Some products on its own could become $1 billion company. So LeadsForge, as an example, is a bet that we made that by building the #1 search engine in the world, that is just part of the ecosystem, that product will fly so fast and so high that it could be also 50% of the revenue of the whole business. Could be the case, right? So, but yeah, it depends, I guess. We're gonna invest more marketing dollars where you see land, the ability to land customers, right? So if you're just landing customers, just keep investing, because the expansion will eventually come. But if you're suddenly seeing that within 7 days, by landing customers, let's say on LeadsForge, you are suddenly also cross-selling Salesforce or Agent Frank or other products, and you do that very effectively, right? You have what's called superior unit economics to an extent where you can spend a ton of money in paid media, because you're looking at it from a lens of selling multiple subscriptions to the customer rather than one. So you have a lot more margin to work with, so you can increase your CAC, so cost of customer acquisition, to fit for these users. So for us, paid media, for example, spending money on Google Ads or Facebook Ads, be big, because we can justify significantly high levels of spend there, because we have more products. So essentially, we have more products that could be sold to that one user that we acquire. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Okay. So if I can, to return our conversation to basic stuff, small size stuff. What are the best ways for startups from like 50 to 100 ARR to do cold email? What is the best strategies for us to scale? What do you think about it?
So you say 50K to 100K ARR?
Maybe a little more. Yeah. So my question is, you are a cold email master, yeah? If there is a hack, I don't know, or you say that no, you shouldn't do cold email, you should do conferences. So I'm looking for a hack, yes, from your perspective, from your experience.
So we're a company that does everything. We do email, we do LinkedIn, we do cold calling, everything is scaled, by the way. So on email, we have thousands and thousands of emails that go out every day. On LinkedIn, I have 30 plus LinkedIn profiles that are spinning. and reaching out to ICPs. On cold calling, I have reps that do thousands of dollars a day. So everything that has to be done. Even I do podcasts at scale. I do 10, 20 podcasts in a month to enter what's called or penetrate micro audiences. So typically you have to do things sort of what I call programmatically. Even SEO is programmatic, YouTube is programmatic on our end. Like we try and do everything that's programmatic, especially things have to compound and they have to scale. If they don't scale, it doesn't make sense to do it. So for example, events in our area is something, there's a lot of events. And that means you can definitely do what's called a motion. You can implement a strategy for events, and you can use events to aggressively generate leads every single year. And yes, you can even scale events because you can literally attend every event because there's just so many events that have to do with startups, B2B SaaS, etc., etc. So the hack, let's start with something else, which is more of a hack, because in cold email, there are no hacks in cold email. In cold email, you have strategy. In other areas, you have hacks. So here's one hack, and it's nothing to do with cold email, but here's a hack, let's say for LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, some people may be aware that you can reach out to people, but you can only connect to about 100 people on a weekly basis from your profile. So the only way really to connect individuals when you have a more time is to essentially use multiple profiles, just like in the world of cold email where you set up multiple domains and multiple email accounts. But then it becomes a question, where do you get these profiles? Do you use fake profiles or what happens? So I'd never recommend using fake profiles. I actually always recommend using real profiles. So you go to your team and you ask them nicely to connect their profiles to a software that can accommodate multiple profiles. For example, like GetSales, or a Ukrainian software it's a Ukrainian software, GetSales, or another software called HeyReach. There are softwares where you can hook up multiple profiles and then use those multiple profiles to reach out to your TAM a lot more scale. But even with our team, I only had like 10 profiles to reach out to my prospects, and I wanted to 10x the capacity. So how do you increase the number of profiles without using fake profiles? Well, one of the hacks you can do is, where do you get what I call bodies? And you can get those bodies. And who would have a LinkedIn profile? And guess what? University students have a lot of, they typically have a LinkedIn profile. And that's where you can source a lot of profiles, and then you can use those profiles to essentially accelerate. So that would be a hack. So the way we've done that is we went to careers fairs. So I'm based in Vilnius. Not sure what I said that, but essentially we went to careers fairs in Vilnius. We had a stand and we were pitching something. So what do you pitch? And why would the student give you a profile for free? Well, what we've done is we said, hey, would you like to do a LinkedIn masterclass, or what we call it, masterclass or boot camp? Actually, we call it boot camp. And what it was is we essentially invited 50, 60 students into a room. It was full on students, and we delivered a LinkedIn masterclass training free of charge with pizza. Pizza, by the way, big seller in the world of students. Definitely, you want to make sure you have pizza for the event. So imagine there's a lot of students that pop up. They listen to you, how to optimize the LinkedIn profile, etc. But then one of the things we say is that you need to look credible on LinkedIn, and that means you need to have a lot of connection requests. And guess what? Students will not go and connect with people. And then we would say, hey, here's a LinkedIn accelerator. So the accelerator is, you give us your profile, and then we're going to connect to a bunch of CEOs out there. You will represent Salesforce. You will have a banner, everything optimized. And then you'll be doing prospecting like our sales team does. And then you'll build up those connection requests. You'll do that for 6 to 12 months. And then by the end of it, you're also going to get the recommendation by Frank Sondors, by the CEO himself, on your profile. Does that sound like a good tip to you? And guess what? About 30 people in the last 30 days said, yes, it sounds good to them. So this is how you can essentially unlock more profiles, connect them to a software, and reach out to more of your TAM on LinkedIn. Because guess what? On LinkedIn, you don't really have the spam problem. And what I'm trying to also say is, do not spam people, have a good messaging, good targeting. So we have that. We just have too many companies to reach out. So we do need these profiles. There's no other way. So right now, we have about 40 LinkedIn profiles spinning. We send about 2,000 connection requests on a weekly basis. And we generate about 40% reply rate. So that means our targeting and our messaging is solid on LinkedIn. So right now, I'm scaling it further. I'm trying to get from 40 profiles right now that we have in the system over to about 100 profiles, so that we can kind of accelerate that as a channel, as an outreach channel for us. And you can literally have one person that sits and manages all these LinkedIn profiles and answers. So that's a real, what I would call growth hack on that. But yeah, if we could now go to cold email as another channel. So we have like 20 channels that we manage, but like cold email actually is our own channel, and we preach that channel every single day. So on cold email, it's all about strategy. So the best way to break it down is if I would give you what we call 4 pillars of success in cold email. 4 pillars. Pillar number 1 is what's called the email infrastructure pillar. So what I mean by that is you can't really send emails these days from your primary business domain because of policing by Google and Microsoft. They essentially have very strict restrictions these days, especially with brand new domains that you set up as a startup, right? And your domain doesn't exist for 5 years. They would penalize you if you're going to send cold emails, and what will happen is you'll get a lot of spam reports. You will potentially get blacklisted. You do not want to do that. So this is why you need to set up these what's called secondary domains. So let's say we have a domain, as an example, Salesforce. Our primary business domain. We only are good people. We only send inbound emails there, so we don't get spam reports. So you can definitely use for inbound communications, etc. But for outbound communication, I would set up domains like trysalesforce.com, getsalesforce.com, teamsalesforce.com, and so on and so forth. So you need these additional domains. So you need many of them depending on the volume to set up, and then you would use these domains. So I have right now 500 mailboxes just for myself. Not even talking to my team, that we leverage to engage, and that means I can 10,000 in a day. So infrastructure is pillar 1. So typically one domain can only have 2 or 3 email accounts, and each email account can only send up to maximum of 30 cold emails per day and 20 what's called warm-up emails. I'm not going to go into that, but essentially you need to also warm up the reputation of these domains. So without infrastructure, scaling is very hard. But if you have a very small TAM, you only have, let's say, 500 key accounts that you're going after, you don't need infrastructure. You can do everything from the primary domain. So it's about how big is your TAM. And if it goes into thousands and thousands and thousands, you do need infrastructure. Now, pillar 2 is what's called execution pillar. How do you actually send emails so that they actually land in the primary mailbox of your recipient? And how would that need to happen? So there are softwares that are really good at sending emails, like Salesforce, and there are softwares that are not good at sending cold emails, like MailChimp. MailChimp is designed for newsletters, as an example, right? So some people still use MailChimp today to send cold emails, which is crazy. So don't use wrong softwares for cold email. So there's also cold email softwares that don't specialize in email deliverability. For example, softwares like Outreach or SalesLoft. These are what's called old school softwares, and they decided not to focus on deliverability topic because in order to improve deliverability, you need to use what's called gray hat tactics to do that. And these legacy providers that have a lot of enterprise customers, they don't want to use gray hat tactics. They don't want to, push the limits with Google or whatever, LinkedIn, whatever, all these companies. So we do apply gray hat tactics to maximize deliverability. So things like email warm-up, it's called, cleaning lists, rotating inboxes. We do a lot of different things. So which software you use to send email is definitely make or break when it comes to success. Now, pillar 3 is what's called the copy, the email copy that you send actually to a prospect. So the problem that exists in the space today, which did not exist maybe 3-4 years ago, is what's called the static content problem, which means if you're sending a template to your prospect and you're doing that at scale, it's pretty bad. Because Google is smart today, has Gemini. So when Google sees that from even multiple domains, you send the same copy to the prospect and you're just changing the first name, Google is not stupid. Google can see that, wow, the same content is being fired away to a lot of mailboxes. And then if that content receives spam reports, Google starts to do association from domain 1, mailbox 1 to domain 2, mailbox 1. It essentially sees that this content essentially is spam. So you will start landing in spam because you're sending the template. So there's only 2 ways to solve this problem. One way, which is it costs you nothing, is what's called spin tags. So you're saying the same word, but in different ways. So you have the same meaning of the word, but you're saying in different ways. So for example, hey, hi, hello is an example. So it should cost you nothing. And in our software, you have this function called auto spin tags, which can randomize the content for you. So at least 50% of first email that you're sending to your prospect has to be randomized. At least 50% these days. Now, the ultimate form, so that Google doesn't recognize anything, is what's called the programmatic way of computing emails. That means every email that's being sent out is uniquely generated for that person. So that's what we do as well. And we also do that with our AI agent. So the way that it works is you outline your value proposition in the software. So what is the pain that you're solving? What is the solution that's on offer? Essentially, that's the context data about your business and why the heck you're reaching out to people, including your ICP. Then we match, so when you're reaching out to the person, we match this data set with what we know about, say, Dima. So we're gonna go on the web, on the World Wide Web, we're gonna go on the internet, Google, LinkedIn, etc., and we're gonna crawl everything we know about Dima and the context and where he works, what's his title, what is his responsibility. So that's what we call the buy data. So we're combining essentially the sell data, what do you sell, with the buy data, what do you know about Dima. We're stitching these two data sets together programmatically, and then we compute on top of that. Whether we do that in English, French, whatever you name it, and we deliver. That means every email is relevant and you need to compute it to that person. So that's pillar 3. Copy is super important. And what goes into copy? You should not send links. You should not have a heavy HTML. So there's other things that you need to worry about copy. So it's a huge, huge thing. So essentially, all your emails can go land in spam simply because of the copy and what's in the copy. And then the final pillar is data, lead start. So because you can have the best copy, best infrastructure, the best software to send, but you just blasting it to the wrong people, right? So data is definitely very, very tricky. Arguably, it's one of the trickiest things to figure out, like, who are the people that I should be messaging to so that they're less likely to report me as spam and more likely to essentially respond back. That is like super important. So that's why I built, for example, LeadsForge, where you enter your ICP, essentially who you're looking for, and we're trying to source the right leads. And then we're going to build a qualification engine, etc. So there's a lot more things coming. But yeah, like the who to email or who to message is definitely, I would say, out of the 4 pillars, the trickiest part, like figuring out who has the intent. Because the problem is, which is why you need to scale email, is at any given time, there's only 2 to 3% of the people that you're trying to reach out that are in market for what is it that you're selling. So that's why you need to scale, because you don't know who these 2 to 3% are. It doesn't matter whether there's signal data or intent data. That data is also very shaky data, but essentially you need to scale to reach your targets that you have as a startup. You need to reach out to a lot of people so that the people that are actually interested in your product, less than 5%, you then have a conversation with them, and then out of those 5%, somebody will convert, less than 1% essentially, typically, right? So, but to give you an idea, what are the stats, general stats in the world? To book one meeting with an individual, the range, how many people you need to reach out these days is anywhere between 200 people to over to 1,000 to book one meeting with a prospect. That's just to give you an idea how many contacts that you need to actually process, why you need to scale. Because if you're looking to hit your let's call demo numbers, you need a lot of leads these days for different reasons, whether that's you have a bad offer or saturation in that industry, whatever it is. There's a lot of different reasons why the number goes up and why people are less likely to respond, less likely to book a meeting, etc. So yeah. So these are the 4 pillars, and this is really the strategy. So if something's not working, you're always thinking about these pillars. Email infrastructure, the execution part, which means the software that you send emails from, the copy, what's in the email itself, and the final one, the targeting. So if you invest in 4 areas and you dig into those 4 areas, you should be successful. But I can tell you there are still companies out there that make millions and millions of dollars just by sending emails, nothing else.
Mind-blowing, mind-blowing. And the fact that you can check all the boxes and yet you have only 2%, yes, of success rate. Yeah, it's mind-blowing. Okay, so the question is for Dima. Dima, have you gotten the email from Frank already? No, a personalized email.
Not yet.
Guys, if you wanna see what Agent Frank can do, go to agentfrank.ai and you can request an email from Agent Frank. Agent Frank will send you an email.
Yeah, well.
By the way, on that topic, this is our best lead magnet. So naturally, I highly recommend also to do at least 1 lead magnet. But essentially, what is a good lead magnet for your business is something that a prospect can get a glimpse on what your product does. So in our case, we do emails, and I'm saying I'm sending great emails. But a lot of prospects are like, show me. And you will see that in the demo. What are they most excited? They're most excited to see the email that gets computed for them. And they always ask me, Frank, I want to see how the email is being sent to me. A lot of people are curious. So we build an engine on the website where you just enter your email address and your LinkedIn, and I will deliver that email to you. And then this, either two things happen. They're very impressed and they want to buy your stuff, or they're not impressed and they leave, right? So 2 things will happen. But guess what? 90% of the times, they are impressed and they want to buy my shit. So that's an example of a very good lead magnet. Build something on the website where a person is willing to give you their email address in return for some little value, where it's like, true, they want that, you know? So yeah.
True. Cool stuff. The next question from Daria.
I was curious regarding the metrics. For example, like people who do cold emails without you and with you, like open rate and email to meeting and so on. Do you track this or not?
Sure. So just so on open rates, a lot of people like to look at open rates, but open rates is a very flawed metric for different reasons, whether that's privacy issues or people blocking pixels, whatever. There's a lot of different issues there, and including if you send an email to Google or Microsoft, the metrics are very different because Microsoft fires the tracking pixel differently to Google. So your results. So if you're, I'll give you an example. If your ICP is very heavy on Microsoft, you would typically see on average open rates of 40%, and that's good, actually. But if you're going to send emails to a lot of Google users, you will see on average an open rate of 60%. And you're like, oh, this is excellent. But you don't understand the technology behind that. Google fires pixels all the time. That's why you have 60%. On the Microsoft, it's always lower. And then on average, about 50%, right? If you would do a 50-50 split. So I would say, you know, in the space, you're seeing average, these are average like open rates, 40 to 60%. And the reason why it goes up, like it typically goes down, the reason why it goes down is because Apple is blocking, other people are blocking, Chrome extension, whatever. More people are becoming aware and more people are blocking pixels. Companies are blocking pixels. But my recommendation to you guys is not to track open rates at all. Reason why you don't track the open rates is because if you're trying to penetrate the enterprise companies, if they see that you're tracking open rates, they will block your emails. So essentially, you are only in a worse position if you're tracking opens. So again, within the software that specializes in deliverability, there has to be an option to disable open tracking for your own good. So that's what we say it's recommended to disable. So what is important in email? How do you track real performance? Because also think about open, it's like a vanity metric, like in Facebook ads, like impression data. What does it give you? What you really care is about the clicks, the click-through rates, and that's the reply rates in email, right? So what is the email? What is good? So I think in the world, the average reply rate is about 1%, just to give you an idea. If we just take an average, actually less than 1%, but let's say it's 1%. But the software that specialize in this stuff, they typically drive reply rates to 2-3%. They're definitely, you know, when they specialize in the emails, they actually drive much higher reply rates. But a benchmark for, sort of, contact to demo booked is about 0.5%. That's a good benchmark that you should be striving towards. That means, like I mentioned, so to book one meeting, you need to process 200 contacts to book that meeting. So that gives you an idea, like if you want to have 20 meetings a month, it gives you a kind of idea back in your head how many people you should be reaching out to hit your monthly target.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Last question is regarding the LinkedIn profiles. You mentioned students and so on.
Yep.
I was curious, so what is kind of authority behind students? Like, for example, students is reaching out to me, from Salesforce. He doesn't have any experience and so on. So,
yeah.
How do you manage to close clients with such a low profiles or something like this? Or maybe you move.
I'll give you a comparison. My co-founders that I use their profiles as well. The CTO, the CPO that we have, they have about 45-50% reply rate. Students have 35 to 40%. So what? 10% difference point. They still drive a ton of pipeline.
This is crazy.
So by the way, I'm gonna go back. I forgot to mention what is important in email. So reply rate is important in email. Having engagement, which means reply, very important. You need to figure out how do you make people just reply, even negatively, even to tell you to fuck off is good for business because replies improve your delivery. So trying to trigger people. We have my sales team is very good at triggering people. They would say something like, if you want to ruin my day, or if you want me to see a doctor about cold emails, please do reply back to me. They will make it funny, essentially. And they'll put that in the PS line, for example. But essentially, reply rates is massive. Then what else is super important? Bounce rates. Having bounce rates below 1%, super important because Google associates high bounce rates with automation, and your domains will be penalized and they will burn. And then the other thing you should be tracking, if you are sort of GDPR compliant and you have the unsubscribe link or what we call the opt-out link, then if you have a very high opt-out rate when you're tracking, that means your targeting is off. Well, honestly, like if you have so many people opting out from a messaging, that means your targeting is not great. That is also a signal, because ultimately, if there's a high opt-out rate, a lot of people will be also reporting you as spam, and then it will not be working. So you definitely need to optimize that. So these are the 3 ultimate measures in email: reply rate, opt-out rate, and bounce rate. Naturally, in the world of LinkedIn, the only thing that matters is the reply rate. Yes, there's what's called also block rate. Some people block you, but yeah, as long as that's less than 1%, it's also totally fine. Yes, Dima, let's go.
Thanks, Frank. I remember you said that for the initial product, you were charging money even before it was created. And I'm interested right now, like, were you applying the same technique later on when shipping other products, or you didn't do it? Yeah, so did you develop any technique to do that?
A technique? Probably not, because every product is a bit different. So I mean, I'll give you an example with the first time round. So you explain what you're building. People know that you have credibility, you have domain, credibility, and then you say something along the lines of, "If this would exist today, would you buy it?" They will say yes, and they say, "If I give you a good deal right now, would you be willing to pay right now?" And many of them said yes. Well, 4 companies. And that's it. You can call it a technique, whatever. But essentially, you're doing user interviews, you're speaking to people, and saying, "Listen, I'm building this. And you sound credible, whatever, they believe in you." And users ask 2 very simple questions. If this would exist today, would you actually go ahead and just buy it? Like, is there anything that would stop you from buying it? And they said, "No, if this would exist, I'll be definitely up for it." I was like, okay, if I give you a good deal, and once I launch this, like essentially, so it will be launched, right? Because you're saying, "I'm working on this." But if you do sign up today and I'll give you a good deal, and whatever the deal is, would you be up for kind of paying for it? And then once it's live, then the subscription will start. Yeah, some people say yes.
Yeah, but were they actually paying like those other times when you were shipping other products? I mean, yeah, because...
So I'll give you an example. So we had product 2. Product 2, we had a paying customer, no code. so it was, and the check size was 10 times bigger. So what did I say? $200? $2,000 was the next one. So 10x, baby. So on that one, so a customer told us that they have I talked about this email infrastructure. That was our second product. That was our second product. So the customer says, "Frank, I love Salesforce, great product, but I don't want to set up these domains." And it came up all the time, in the first few months. And this is where we're like, "Damn, let's just build the infrastructure finally. What are we waiting for?" So actually, the acceleration really came from the compound. So we said, "Let's build a second product." And the customer said, "Frank, if I pay you whatever, will you just set it up for me?" I said, "Sure." So I took the money and went and built it. So yes, that was the second, because the customer. So essentially, you cannot use Salesforce unless you have infrastructure. So the customer knows that. The customer doesn't want to go to GoDaddy and buy domains and set up manually domains. He's asking me, "Frank, we have a bit of a dilemma here. I need infrastructure." And then I thought to myself, "Yeah, this guy has unlimited cash." And I said, "Well, if you pay me $2K, I'll go build it quickly and we'll onboard you." That's what we did. We built it. So he paid and we built. Essentially, that was like I'm gonna call it the last. The problem was we were already planning to build it, but the guy, it was just a demo, normal demo. You show Salesforce, whatever, blah blah blah, and then we talk about infrastructure, and you cannot onboard this cool customer because you're missing the other product that we were planning to build, but it's only coming like in 6 weeks because we didn't have no backend, no UI, nothing. But we had the email servers, everything was that was ready. We just didn't have he could not log in, whatever. There was nothing. And I said, "Well, we are on the way of building this, but it's gonna take 6 weeks. But if you pay me now, I can get it done tomorrow." Because the servers were ready. So the CTO essentially did it manually. He span up essentially domains and email accounts manually. And you can call that as an MVP essentially, because the customer needed, I think 200 domains at that point, like a lot of them anyway. So there was a lot of domains that you need to spin up, and it was a fantastic, customer that you can test with. How are we going to do this at scale? Because our software does everything at scale. So it was a good test bunny. He's still a customer. The testimonial is still there, actually. So on the sign-up page.
Yeah. Frank, if I can answer following the question.
Sure.
And at this point, when you said that the customer said, like, okay, we have a trouble, like,
Yeah.
if you could set up infrastructure and everything for us, we would pay you. And I understand that here, a lot of entrepreneurs would stop here, because that would require extra capacity, extra team capacity, would hire other people and so on. A lot of entrepreneurs here would opt out to wait for something later until their
Yes. people
are more free, so
Yeah.
that they can get back to that request and start doing something in half a year. So how you figure out here?
Well, I mean, back then, 2K was a lot of money. So we thought, okay, let's pause. What we did is we paused the development of Salesforce, and we fully focused on this because the customer was willing to pay. Sometimes you need to pause your mainstream production, whatever that you do. You just say, that's it, we stop, and we go and do this now. And sometimes you need to do that. You literally pause the development of your core product, and you go and build this. You need to make bets. Our bet was the compound model. We always knew we were going to build more products. It was about how fast do we build them. But because the guy was like, it was already proving a point, that we have a customer that wants to buy already the second product. It's already compound. So we just said, let's stop. We literally stopped Salesforce development, zero code for quite some time. And we went and built the second product, Mailforge.ai, which is the largest infrastructure in the world for cold email today. But it gives you that instinct as a founder, whatever CEO. If you smell if you smell the bacon, after it. Because it may also happen that the second product, which did happen, the second product will be bigger in revenue than the first one. And that's exactly what happened. Mailforge became 10 times bigger in the first 6 months than Salesforce. 10 times. And that's why, when when the opportunity comes to you, you think about it because you have a resource, right? You have limited, so I have limited resource. Either I keep on doing what I'm doing, and I expect it to grow, or I'm gonna make a bet that I'm gonna pause the development of this product, I'm gonna go jump on the second product and build that. And then comes the question, how fast we can build this, how fast we can ship this. But because you had a customer that was willing to pay you so much, like literally 10 times more than the first product, 10 times, it was a good bet to go with. And you should have a gut feel. I think a lot of people in Europe, unfortunately, don't take risk. This is like what's called a gamble. You need to take make a bet because you want to grow faster. You're trying to figure out faster by building the same product, where you're like, well, let me build a complementary product. And sometimes it pans out. In this case, it pans out pretty well, and which is why we became one of the fastest growing companies in the world. So you have to make these bets, and I think the dilemma in Europe is people don't just make bets, let's call it aggressively or fast. The speed is also important. We decided the same night to switch. You have to move fast. You don't just think about it. Like decisioning in your brain has to be like, you have to be like GPT-5, actually, not GPT-3.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Yeah. Hi, Frank. My name is Bodan. We do B2B lead gen agency. Could you please elaborate on the programmatic emails you mentioned, like unique emails per each prospect?
Sure.
Is it just like email, I mean AI generated based on their LinkedIn profile, or you do some pre-built workflows?
So it's a programmatic compute. So essentially, we compute for every person an email in different languages. Could be Ukrainian, could be whatever language, English, Russian, whatever. So the computation happens based on a set of settings that the user can choose from, and it depends whether you use what we call the human part. So you human as a control stuff, or you use the agent, and the agent will do things differently to the human. But ultimately, the main concept is to combine two very important data sets that exist when it comes to reach out. One data set is why the heck you're reaching out to me. So we call that the seller data. So you outline the value proposition of your business and of your product within the software. And you can have multiple value props. So when you run a sequence, you can select the value prop that you're running. So that value prop is what's being taken to compute as a context. And then on the buyer side, so who is that we're reaching out, on the contact level, we crawl the web, essentially. We go and access the internet, essentially. We go and check out your website, check out LinkedIn profile and other data sources to have the right context about this person. So then we stitch these two data sets together, and then we apply LLMs on top of that to compute the email in the language of your choice. So this is how we're able then to arrive to what we call a unique email being sent to every person. We're trying to figure out a way how to make it relevant. So everything that's not relevant, based on publicly available data, gets essentially deleted from the context, and only relevancy remains on the buyer side. And this is what allows us to move fast. So we also do some things like, we could even, for example, send an email with a greeting, which will say, in the Ukrainian, actually, there was this Ukrainian lady last week. She also tested agentfrank.ai, and the email read Привет, essentially, her name was Alyona. Привет, Alyona, it said. So even the greeting and how you greet the person, you can modify that, because that's not something that typically AI would do, right? So greeting you in your native mother tongue. But that's something that we do also programmatically. We're trying to figure out also like these things that are very unusual in computations today, like greeting a person in native mother tongue, which will make people respond more. And the reason why we're testing that is because typically localization, so crafting emails in the native mother tongue to the person, we see up to 2x relative lift. So I always say the joke about the French people, if you're gonna send an email to a Frenchman in English, it will backfire and it will swear at you in French. But if you're gonna send an email to a Frenchman in French, guess what? A lot of replies gonna come back. The only problem is you don't speak the French to have a demo with the person, right? So, so yeah, that's how we compute. But our computation can evolve. We are also gonna, computations happen. Soon we're gonna launch LinkedIn. So we're gonna compute even from person one on the seller side, and then LinkedIn could be a totally different person. So we're gonna do multi-threading on the seller side to the same contact. So it will become more programmatic also across channels, individuals, essentially, whether it's an email channel, LinkedIn channel, which language that is, how long should be the email. There's quite a few things. So think of it like, you probably heard of Clay. So Clay is very advanced, super sophisticated, etc. There's other softwares that do computations like Twain or Octave. They just do computations. We built what we call a simplistic way to compute with a few settings, and it's still you're arriving to very similar outcomes and a lot more cost effectively, because these softwares that compute emails are typically very expensive. And they're designed more for big companies, and they can afford typically to pay more per lead. But we're designing software more for what we call the mass market and the unsavvy people in the world of sales, typically founders, whatever, sales reps, that don't know what they're doing. So we're designing software for them.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I also received Привет as a greeting by Frank just now.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, is that workflow for programmatic emails, is it something you do in-house for your product, or is it available for every user of Salesforce or LeadForce?
Every user of Salesforce, yeah. So users can either use, three things they can do. They can send templates. We don't recommend to do that. They can send spin text templates, which means content gets randomized. It costs nothing. Or they can use AI to compute emails, full-on emails, and even step 2, 3 as well, so multiple emails. And then actually there's a fourth option. You can just compute what's called the icebreaker, which means just the first line will get computed in the email. I typically recommend to have that in the PS section, not as the first line, but in the PS section, which can work also wonders as well.
Okay, thanks.
So, are you first-time founder or no?
Yes.
Because you are mentioned so many times word aggressively and the largest, and I don't see regularly in first-time founders so risk-oriented like moves. Okay, what I want to ask is N8N. You are to these days using it as a agent stack mainly, or there are something else?
Yeah, Dima is saying I'm in sales, so yes, you don't have to be, second-time founders if you've been doing sales for over 10 years. So yes, we use N8N for internal stuff, meaning our own go-to-market, and killing repetitive stuff. internal. Anything that's repetitive, we're killing it. So we have a channel called N8N channel. You drop any ideas. Anybody in the company can drop an idea. And then we have an N8N guy just that prioritizes all the tasks and prioritizes tasks versus the highest revenue contribution, for example. So today, literally today, we're launching voice AI agents on inbound. So if you did not buy stuff from me, you had a demo and you ghosted me, Agent Frank will call you. But it's not something that we offer as a product, not yet at least. In the future we will, because we only do outbound for now. We will do inbound in the future. But yeah, Agent Frank will call you and they'll say, hey, this is Agent Frank. You had a demo with Carlos, 2 weeks ago. You discussed, Salesforce, etc. I was wondering what happened. Why didn't you end up buying, etc. And yes, it has a conversation back and forth. So yeah.
Okay, and another question about this multiple software approach. Do you start it from? It starts from initial idea, or it formed from users' needs?
No, I started as we never pivoted. So our idea back then, when I thought about this idea, has never changed. So it was always multi-modular build with a data layer behind the scenes.
Okay, but is there a like list of module that you prepare to
Yes.
essentially fully made?
Yes, we have more products that we're going to roll out. So the V1 of the ecosystem has 7 products. The 7th product will be launched. The second most revenue generating product that we believe will be launched in 2 days, which is the data product. And then we have at least 3-4 more products. So we call that V2 of the ecosystem. When you have 10 products, then for us it's V2 already. V1 is 7 products. So you assemble these products in a particular way. And yeah, we optimize towards making sure a customer buys 3 subscriptions is our what we call North Star. If a customer buys 3 subscriptions, the ecosystem play is working. So yeah, that's what we're optimizing towards. So I'll give you an example. So data is 1 subscription. Subscription 2 is infrastructure, and subscription 3 is execution. So meaning Salesforce.
And when user, for example, comes for one product data, and how you upsell after that other ecosystem products?
So within the app, you can transition nicely to, you can export it. You can go to sign up anywhere, and bottom left, you can explore other products. People are curious, they go and jump into other products. On the website itself, we have an ecosystem page, so you can export on the website other products too. Then what will happen is not happening right now, but 2 things will happen is one, which will be big, is bundling. So when you're going to purchase product 1, we will recommend you to buy product 1, 2, 3, 4, and there will be, let's say, discount, whatever. There will be value why you should do that. It will push you to buy other products. That's another thing that you can do. And the other thing that you can do is you can have automation flows. So essentially, a customer bought product 1. I can fire an email saying, hey, congrats on buying Salesforce. Well, the best next product to buy with Salesforce is to buy LeadsForge, whatever. So you can build these sort of flows to prompt individuals to do that. And if everything fails, Agent Frank will call you. So you can literally build a voice AI agent. So you subscribe, it will call you. It will say, congrats for buying whatever product. I was wondering whether you want to buy another product, So
Cool.
So yeah.
Cool stuff.
That's why you have to build these what are called fail-safe mechanisms, sort of, We send emails, we send WhatsApp messages, by the way, on inbound. But WhatsApp messages on inbound, we get 10x reply rate versus inbound emails. WhatsApp works beautiful. So we ask for the telephone number on inbound, and we fire within 1 minute. A message was to say, hey, this is Frank from the Forge. Let me know if you got any questions. That's all. No other messages.
The greatest spam agent, Frank.
I make sure
greatest of all time.
So once you bump into me, you will never forget about me. On LinkedIn, on email, WhatsApp, you name it. Agent Frank will be calling
From
you.
students' accounts.
So yeah, universities see my face frequently, because I need all those extra bodies on LinkedIn, So yeah, typically when we think about any channel, we always think about, Uncle Frank will come for you, exactly. So when we think about any channel, we think about scale. So when we think about LinkedIn, it has to scale. We think about email, it has to scale. When we think about voice, it has to scale. So on the voice front, we use what's called a parallel dialer. You dial 5 to 10 people at the same time, so there's software that does that, to ensure that your sales rep, doesn't matter where he is in the world or she, is having a lot of conversations. So there are softwares out there we use a software called Salesfinity. There's also Nooks and other softwares that do that. So I can tell you, I used to work in the business, so as a VP sales, so with a sales team of 50 people. And I think 70–80% of the demos came from cold calling. So the other demos were like totally not important. We would send an email day 1, and day 2 we called. And the only reason why we send an email is not to book a meeting, but to say, hey John, did you get my email last night? That's all. So the email was assist to the cold call, and that's the strategy of acquisition. So yeah.
Great stuff.
Okay, the last one from me. So while we are building vertical agent for image gen and YouTube analyze like process, we have a struggle with fine-tuning the models because I don't have a deep expertise in this field. And what I found is that there are so many struggles with fine-tuning models, and why I'm ask you about stack for your agents, and if you're using only N8N, because you can do some niche like agents for a specific task. So what I'm asking is if you have if you would have this struggle, or you haven't, would you buy a product that just by a prompt building fine-tuned for your needs agent or any other AI model like in seconds?
It's not something that I will be able to answer. You know, I'm just a sales guy. That's what I say. You know, this is where you ask my CTO. A lot of people ask me questions. If you ever do that, I don't know, and I don't honestly care. You know, I optimize towards something else in my life. So the way I look at it, you know, when somebody has a problem, doesn't matter, me, my CTO, etc. Because we live in the future where we will be going towards a future where I would typically describe it agentic first and human second. That means when you have a problem in the business, doesn't matter what that problem is, I have a problem with my models, whatever, then you want to take definitely what's called an off-the-shelf AI solution, agentic solution, to solve that problem, yes, within seconds or whatever, fast, right? Because the solution, you plug it in, it works, right? So that's what's called off-the-shelf solution. It just works. If that does not exist in the market because the technology is not there yet for whatever reason, then I believe you have to build custom workflows, and that's built on N8N, for example. That's why we use N8N, because our agent Frank, unfortunately, does not do everything that you need to do in sales. Not yet. We will do eventually, but it takes time. Then we use N8N, right? Because every business is different. You need to assemble, do these things, and N8N is fantastic to solve that problem. That's what I call option 2. Option 3 is the unfortunate option, is hiring a human, but not the human into your business, but hiring actually an agency. So a lot of people don't understand that that time is money, and you need to solve problems fast. You need, like, a lot of people don't understand how fast you need to move in the world of startups, because time kills your startup. You need to move fast, and sometimes it is, even though an agency or freelance is more expensive, plugging in knowledge, deep domain expertise, fast, solving the problem, and then helping you to kind of move forwards is critical. That's why you should be doing that, because there is unfortunately a problem with labor supply, hiring good people into your business in the world. So plugging an agency or freelancer is the fastest way to solve your problem. So you can, as a startup, you can kind of move along. And then yes, the last resort is to hire a human into your business. So agent first, human last, sort of, that's really how I look at the world. But yeah, at the same time, I have 40 people in my company already. But that's what I call the unnecessary evil for now. But I am trying to find ways to cut corners here and there with the AI agents. But ultimately, we are not under pressure to hire people. I have 3 people in sales, and somehow we still do 500 demos a month. So you definitely are thinking of how to maximize the output levels of employees right now. So you have small teams. You could be literally one person, but how do you do output maxing, what I call? And that's where the agentic systems come into play. So if I can make my humans do less admin work, less repetitive work, and just more real work, like, or valuable work, like talking with clients, upselling them, selling them, whatever, whatever is like the human work that needs to be done. Like, how can I make them do more of that and less of entering CRM notes or closing opportunities in Salesforce, all that bullshit. All that bullshit can be done by agentic systems. It has to be done, right? It's important to do the admin work. But why would the human do that? So that's why you have to kill everything bit by bit in your business to keep you lean and mean.
Great, great. Frank, can we have additional 10 minutes because we have 3 more questions in the room?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Roman, and I just wanted to ask about all those students. Yeah, I already did. Yeah, and so do they like represent like a company or?
Sure. Yeah, you can have a look at LinkedIn profile of Salesforce. You can see there's a bunch of students hooked up. They have a title called Partner Engagement Manager, which is the official title of our students that we hire typically as interns. Yeah, I have a whole another motion, what's called the intern motion. That's a slightly different thing. But yeah, they have an official title, Partner Engagement Manager. They hook their profile up to Salesforce. We start ramping the profile. We do about 5 connect requests maybe per day, not 25. Typically, we do 25 on fully ramped profiles. They have a proper banner, everything. It looks like they work at the Forge, but they don't.
But they kind of do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes. But see, think of it this way. So yes, it costs us nothing to do that, but actually to manage the profiles, to ramp the profiles, to optimize the LinkedIn, we have time, and time is money. If I spend my time on those profiles, it's, it's investment, right? It's how I think about being here. I think about, investing my time, and there's something that will happen out of this, whatever will happen. But the return on the students is that I make them from I make you from a nobody to somebody in 6 months. Why wouldn't you do that? It's a great offer. Like in cold email. You have nothing to lose as a student. Your profile is shit. Typically shit. Less than 100 connection requests, total bullshit. And there Frank comes and shows you, hey, look at my great profile. It's not gonna be as great that fast, but I will make you as somebody on LinkedIn. And then when you're gonna apply to an actual job, and then the employer will look at your profile, well, you're gonna be a somebody. Because there's definitely a high correlation between when you have a good profile on LinkedIn, your probability of you getting a job with that company is significantly higher, an office job, because they will check you out on LinkedIn, right? So there's definitely correlation, and it's very easy conversation to have with a student. Like, listen, I can increase your employability chances. I bet you need a job in the, next month, whatever, But imagine I will make you somebody. You're working at a Forge, one of the, most successful companies out there. So. And they definitely say yes. It's quite an easy sell in that sense. Of course, there's a drop off. People are like, no, connecting, no. But people there are a lot of students that are very sort of hacky, let's call it. They wanna, for them, it's like an opportunity essentially, right? For them, it's a growth hack in their heads. Yeah. It's a growth hack to become a somebody, thanks to the Forge, So, yeah. So
can I ask another question?
Sure.
Yeah, and you also mentioned automated calls.
Yes.
So does it do you use an AI agent for calls, or is it like a specific salesperson at each of your clients' companies that are just given a list of all the hot leads? Or
you can set it up as you please in N8N. N8N can do anything. You just use the right voice API, give it the right context. Context is this: we had a demo. Or we did not have a demo, they just signed up. Which was the product they signed up? That's the context I'm feeding. The OSAI agent knows everything about my company. You just dump the whole fucking knowledge base into the agent. Knows as much as the support team, right? So it can answer any question on voice, on the call. And we also, our N8N guy, he also scraped all of our blog. We have also a ton of information. So essentially does all the context feeding. He could also scrape our link, YouTube account, because we have over 500 videos. So we have literally a guy that does full-time YouTube videos. It's our second most generating channel for MQLs, so leads for our site. But anyway, so there's that context. There's a history on the leads. Then we do checking in our CRM and HubSpot whether they became a client or not. If they became a client or there was a conversation, it stops. The agent does not call. But otherwise, essentially, if you did not pay me money, I'm going to call you. That's it. If you're going to churn, I'm going to call you. And if you became a customer, I'm also going to call you because I want you to buy more. So like, there's no reason not to be calling, especially,
There's no escape from Frank.
Yes, there's think of it this way. Imagine you get a phone call and we'll say, hey, Dima, this is Agent Frank. How are you? And Dima is excited to talk to an agent on the call. It's an interesting moment.
Isn't it off-putting?
When was the last time you got a call by an AI agent?
So it's like
most people would say
it's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting to experience an agent by an AI agent company. Like, oh wow, cool, Agent Frank is calling me. A lot of people want to buy that. I expect a lot of people say, I want to buy this voice AI agent. Can I buy it? And I will say, unfortunately not. But we'll get a feedback. How many people who wants to buy voice AI agent? And then we'll get a production. This is how you get feedback. People say, I want this. Okay, I'll build this. No worries. How much you gonna pay me? 20K? Let's go. That's a 10x. So that's how you think about it.
And the last question is, he speaks in your voice.
Yes, you can do voice cloning. It speaks. Yes, it uses my voice.
Okay, that's reassuring.
But yeah, you can set what's up, right? You want to have a sexy American voice or a sexy British voice or whatever, whatever it is. But you can, yes.
Hi, Frank.
With the AI, anything's possible. So yeah, these days. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, hi. My name is Ruslan. I'm CTO of the startup Sub-Zero. Yeah, and we are building the reply pilot for lead gen agencies. And my question is about pretty technical. Maybe have your team had any challenges implementing your solution? Maybe some restrictions from LinkedIn or whatever. Yeah, that's all.
Do we have any issues implementing our product in companies?
LinkedIn is not allowing to scrape some data, and can ban your accounts.
So the way we go, LinkedIn doesn't like scraping. Fair enough. We don't do scraping of LinkedIn ourselves as a company, so we're not liable for LinkedIn data. So how do you go around this? You go and buy LinkedIn scrape data from other parties, and we have a waterfall approach, which means if vendor 1 gets banned, whatever, or because of season, this is whatever happens. We have a vendor 2, vendor 3. We have a waterfall approach to make sure we're always crawling the web. So we have multiple vendors behind the scenes to get that data, but we do not scrape that data ourselves, not to be liable for, not getting a cease and desist by LinkedIn ultimately. We'll let those other guys deal with the problem. We just buy the data, and the data that we buy is what's called non-PII data, non-personally identifiable information. Essentially, what's on LinkedIn, it's not like we scrape email addresses. We just need to know what is your title, what do you do, what does it say in your bio, headline, what is your name? That's all we need. But it's not personally identifiable information, really, like email address, phone number, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the second question: how you configured your reply agent that give the really good replies to your customers, because it can be really messy sometimes.
It's multiple ways you can do that. You can do that in the simplest way, which is you install a RAG. We call that, officially knowledge base within our software. You dump all the information about your business, your sales playbook, pricing, FAQs. So the agent just works with that context. And that's what it works with to reply back to every single human for the agent then to book a meeting. That's what's being used. We're going to go layer deeper, which is we will craft the best possible replies in the industry. So what we're trying to do is build what we call the best agent in the industry. And guess what? To build that, you need what we call industry level data, not company level data. So we will do what's called data clustering. And then when you do data clustering in a software, so you have companies that exhibit what's called similar traits. Let's say they're from the same industry, they target the same ICP. you can then use a concept in machine learning called federated learning to train a siloed data sets in your data cluster. And then you apply, ML models, you apply Gen AI models, and it essentially becomes a training data set. And then when you push out the outputs from that data cluster, you can predict, for example, for this industry and this ICP, when is the best time to send an email, for example? After how many days should an email to go out? When is the best time to call this? You can predict for every industry. That's the next layer. And then on the Gen AI front, instead of computing emails based on publicly available LLMs, we will compute based on customers' data. And it's essentially what Google does in my opinion. So.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for your answer.
No worries.
Okay, so I would have a last question for you. And it is a two-part one. First one is what you wish you had learned earlier as a founder and implemented in Salesforce, maybe like a year ago you wish you knew something. And the second thing is what is the thing you wish you the like strategy or sales thing, maybe channel you wish you had activated earlier in Salesforce?
I mean, so on the latter question, it's voice AI agents, so I mean, they're very powerful stuff, so I mean, that's from a go-to-market, from acquisition standpoint. So implementing the agentic system. So I could have done voice AI agents last year, but I'm only doing this year for different reasons. We did not have the right resource to implement it. Now on the first question, what would you have done, differently to move faster? I typically have this one answer. I wish I would have fired some people faster. There's a saying, and applies to every startup founder, you have to hire fast, but you have to learn how to fire faster. We fire people very fast, but I wish it would be even faster. If you want to kind of get in the mindset of firing people and do what's called people management, you should listen to Nick Staronsky, the CEO of Revolut. He talks a lot about it. What I call talks a lot about deadwood, essentially, in the business. And how Europeans are not ambitious enough. Anyway, so there's a lot that he talks about. But, I have hired in my lifetime, because, I've been leading sales, etc., hundreds of salespeople and fired hundreds of salespeople in my lifetime. And also here I'm firing people every week, nearly. But because we have a very different concept of how we operate the business, which is we operate on an 80-20 rule basis, which means if you have 80% conviction that you could be the right fit, we will not wait. We will typically hire you and get you on board as quickly as we can. And then there's typically a 3-month probation period. But in a typical company, people pass probation period. In our company, that's by default. But in our company, by default, you're exiting the company by default. So we're building what's called a business case to keep the individual over the 3-month period. And when I say, I wish I would have fired some people, but some people it was obvious too that I should let go. Well, we just gave them 2-3 more months because we were hoping that they would turn around. But let me tell you what, typically 99%, 98% of the times, they never turn around. So if you really believe in the first 2 weeks that the person you have hired was a mistake, my advice to you, let them go the same day and just part ways much faster because you're wasting your time.
Understood.
The thing to learn really as a founder, it's very tricky, is to fire people very fast because you're doing more damage to your business than good by keeping dead wood in the business. Because you're not hiring the other person, the replacement fast enough. So it's like SaaS, acquisition churn. But some customers are not good fit. So you want to practically churn them. So that's how I think about it, right? Because it's very hard to get really good fit people into your business, which is fine. So you can do it in many different ways. You can have 10 interviews for the same person. I think it's a waste of time. I think you can see if people are really made for a startup, if they just join, you give them the book, whatever, and then you'll lead them to And the type of humans actually that we hire, which maybe explains why it doesn't work out, is we hire what we call autonomous humans. We expect you to be the CEO of your own turf. We hire, the other way to talk about it is we hire children. We don't hire kids. And when it becomes apparent that I'm babysitting you, means I'm telling you what to do. If I'm telling you what to do, you're fired. You will notice this when you have conversations in Slack, that you're telling the person what to do every day. You should fire them.
Understood. Sorry, I forgot about Daria's question. This will be the last one.
It's super short. I just wanted to ask you, what was the book that changed your life?
It's gonna be a fun answer. I don't read books, but to make it even more funny, I'm writing a book right now, even though I don't read books. It's so funny.
You should have told that I don't read books, but AI agent Frank, yeah, he read a bunch.
Yeah, he reads unlimited billions of lines of code. So some people don't like to consume content over books. So I'm one of them. So I'm a big believer the consumption of content, majority of that will happen on YouTube. So I consume a lot of YouTube content. And if you wanna follow, let's call it a few people. Probably there's two very interesting. There's many people that are interesting. I would say you could probably say these are the 100 most interesting people, let's say, in software space or whatever. But one of them, for example, who is a SaaS veteran, is called Jason Lemkin. Jason Lemkin runs the #1 SaaS conference in the world called SaaStr in the Bay Area. So he's one guy to follow. He was one of the first people in the world 10 years ago that started to write SaaS. So he has a blog on SaaS, and he has very old blogs and how he thinks about people and etc. If you follow him on LinkedIn, he shares these little, what's called tidbits, little pieces of insights on what to do, what not to do, when to fire, what to do, whatever, And when you're consuming this content on a daily basis, you become what I call 1% better at the time. So he will be one of the individuals. The other one, guy that is very good on distribution front is called Nathan Latka. Nathan Latka loves bootstrap companies. He's from New York. He runs also a mini conference, whatever. But there are people that are very good at their jobs, and there's many of them on LinkedIn. And so what I do is I follow those people. They feed me with knowledge every day. Essentially, LinkedIn for me is like a newspaper. First thing I do in the morning, I wake up, I open LinkedIn. I read some stuff. It's like a newspaper. Every post is like because they give you free knowledge. Imagine, smart people that you don't have to pay, they feed you with knowledge. Crazy, right? They tell you to buy their course. I don't need that course. I just keep on feeding my brain. And bit by bit, the years pass, right? And you just get smarter. So that's how I accumulate knowledge, not through a book. If I want to dive deep into something, sure, you can watch a YouTube video. And again, there's a lot of smart people on YouTube, and they outline everything. But there are multiple other ways. Just that book consumption is just not something I do. You want to surround yourself with smart people. Naturally, you want to go to conferences and speak to smart people. There's other ways to consume knowledge, and I think the thing I would say is like you need to do what's called active learning every week. If you happen, like arguably every day. But every week, if you have not learned something new that helps you do your job better, run your business better, something is off. Something is totally off. I mean, this is why you're in this session, right? But ultimately, this is something you need to do. You need to feed your brain, essentially. It's very important. Like, so how do you force yourself to feed your brain? What is your ritual for brain feeding every day, every week? So for me, it's opening up LinkedIn, opening YouTube all the time, and so on and so forth. And because the space moves so fast, you need to be, on top of the game. And so that's like super important.
Yeah, and the last one, I guess. So if you had to pick one email sequencer for the rest of your life, except for the Salesforce, which one would you pick?
Beehive. Beehive is our newsletter software. I love Beehive, by the way. I mean, a sequence is not exciting, to be honest. The strategy or how it gets orchestrated, it's like a top level, one level up. sequencing is not that exciting to me as a concept. It's just, execution engine. There's other cool softwares out in the market that build cool shit. I typically look at AI agent software. So we have competitors that, as I said, that we power and we compete against, like 11x, Artisan, for example, and they are in the AI agent space, and we're looking at what they do and whether they do anything crazy. Most of the things they don't do anything crazy. They're just very good at what we call packaging, which means they package a software, but behind the scenes they would use our software, whatever, and that's fine. But sometimes you're trying to see who's doing some cool stuff that you would not think of it. I don't know. So agentic companies do come to mind. Maybe Ample Market comes to mind. They do some cool stuff, and then we would compete against them and stuff like that. I do look at companies that do typically trying to do something differently in the space. So, or at least that's how they've been perceived. So, for example, Clay.com. So we're investors in Clay as well ourselves. So we would look at them and what do they do, how they do it, and that's interesting, for a specific use case or a specific type of customers. Not for us, maybe as much, but anybody that does, things interestingly. So I don't know. There's not a company that does things interestingly called Telescope.ai or Try Telescope. What they do is you enter your ICP and then you do a bit of like Tinder swiping, and then it essentially trains on your swiping, and then it suggests you more ideal customers to go after. So like interesting angles like that, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. They took the Tinder concept and then applied to leads as a space. There's so many competitors in our space. And this is why, so when you have a lot of competition, I highly recommend that with some of them, you figure out how to work with each other rather than working against them. And I always believe that the smartest founders are the ones that figure out ways how to make money with each other. I'll give you one of the best probably examples of Google paying Apple, $30+ billion every year to ensure that Google is the default Chrome browser in Apple. They both compete, but they found ways, to be happy. So that's my last piece of advice.
Frank, thank you for your additional time. Yes, and this applause is for you. If you would hear, an online one. Thank you for your time. It was very, very interesting, right? Interesting, and we'll write a report about it in LinkedIn, and hopefully see you maybe another time.
See you another time, guys. Cheerio.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, Frank.